Welcome, seekers of light, to a journey through the sands of time. Tonight we do not simply watch history, we breathe it, feel it, and live it together. Before you stands the story of a beacon that once cut through the darkness of the ancient world, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, built not of mere stone, but of human ambition, courage, and vision. It stood as a symbol of hope for sailors who braved endless seas, and as a marvel that whispered of humanity's boundless dreams. This is not just the tale of an ancient structure. It is the pulse of every heart that ever longed for direction, the reflection of every soul that searched for light amidst uncertainty. Here on these shores, civilizations converged, knowledge blossomed, and legends were born. As the last glow of the lighthouse flickers in our story, I invite you to let your imagination rise with its flame, to see not only the fall of a wonder, but the eternal message it left behind. This is more than history. It is the heartbeat of humanity itself. So come, step closer, witness the last glow. What if the brightest light of the ancient world was not a star, but a flame born from human hands? What if its fall was not the end, but a message carried through time? Tonight we awaken the last glow of the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Subscribe for more history, like and comment if you believe history should never be forgotten, and share to spark conversation about the lessons we must learn from the past. This is not myth, this is history, and it begins here. The sun rises over the shimmering waters of the Mediterranean, its golden light brushing against the bustling coastline of Alexandria. The air is alive with voices, merchants shouting, sailors calling, the rhythmic beat of hammers from shipyards echoing across the harbor. In this place, where the Nile meets the sea, the world converges. Egyptians, Greeks, Persians, Phoenicians, and travelers from lands beyond the horizon. Alexandria is more than a city. It is the heart of a dream, a beacon of civilization. Amid this rising splendor, one vision grows in the mind of Pharaoh Ptolemy II. He gazes upon the endless sea, where countless ships vanish into storms or smash upon hidden reefs. Too many lives are lost, too many treasures swallowed by the waters. He feels the weight of responsibility, not only as a ruler, but as a guardian of his people and of the world's greatest harbor. The Pharaoh summons his architects and engineers, among them, a man of brilliance and daring, Sostratus of Cnidus. He is not a mere builder, but a visionary who sees beyond stone and mortar. Where others dream small, he envisions a tower that will touch the heavens, a flame that will burn high above the seas, guiding sailors home. The dream begins not with stone, but with purpose, to create a monument that embodies safety, hope, and eternal light. Workers gather, their hands calloused, their brows heavy with sweat. They do not yet know that they are shaping one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. As night falls, a silence blankets the shore. Sostratus stands by the water, imagining the colossal tower rising where only waves now crash. He feels the stars above and wonders if someday his lighthouse will rival them. The sea roars at his feet, as if testing his resolve. But he does not flinch. He whispers to the night, "Let there be a light that will never be lost." Thus, the first stone of destiny waits to be laid, and with it begins the story of the Lighthouse of Alexandria. The throne room of Alexandria is bathed in golden light. Columns carved with hieroglyphs rise toward the heavens, their shadows dancing with the flicker of oil lamps. At the center sits Pharaoh Ptolemy II, his presence commanding yet troubled. He is no ordinary king. His vision stretches beyond conquest. He dreams of leaving behind a legacy that will outlast his reign. The room is filled with advisors, generals, and priests, yet the air is heavy with tension. The pharaoh rises from his throne, his voice echoing across the chamber. Our harbor is the jewel of the Nile, the heart of trade and knowledge. Yet it betrays those who trust it. Ships vanish in storms, men perish in darkness. This cannot be the fate of Alexandria, my Alexandria. Murmurs ripple through the court. Some advisors whisper of impossibility, others nod with cautious approval. The pharaoh silences them with a single glance. His voice softens, but his words burn with determination. There will be a tower so mighty, so enduring, that it shall touch the sky itself. From its crown, a flame will burn for eternity, guiding every soul that braves the sea. This is my command. All eyes turn to Sostratus of Cnidus, the architect standing quietly at the edge of the chamber. The pharaoh's hand extends toward him. Sostratus, builder of dreams, take stone from the quarries, labor from the people, and wisdom from the gods. Bring forth this light. Do not build me a monument to kingship, build a monument to hope. Sostratus bows, his heart pounding with both fear and awe. He knows this task will not merely test his skill, it will test his very soul. He looks into the pharaoh's eyes and sees not a ruler, but a man desperate to protect his people. The command spreads beyond the palace walls. Messengers gallop across the city, announcing the pharaoh's decree. The people of Alexandria gather, their voices rising in anticipation. Some are skeptical, others inspired. But one thing is certain, a new chapter in history has begun. On the harbor's edge, Sostratus watches as workers prepare the ground. He whispers to himself, "The pharaoh has given the word. Now the gods will test the hand that builds." The command has been spoken. The dream now demands action. And so, the greatest lighthouse the world has ever known begins not with stone, but with the will of a king. The harbor of Alexandria awakens not only with the cries of merchants and sailors, but with a new rhythm, the thunder of chisels striking stone, the groan of oxen dragging massive blocks, the coordinated shouts of laborers. The pharaoh's command has become reality. The foundation of a dream is being laid upon the earth. In the nearby quarries, men work under the searing sun. Dust clings to their skin as hammers ring against limestone, splitting the earth's bones into mighty blocks. Each stone is not merely material, it is destiny carved from the belly of the earth. Workers believe they are shaping the flesh of a giant that will rise from the shore. At the construction site, Sostratus of Cnidus directs the placement of the first great stones. His eyes glint with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. To him, each stone is a word in a poem that must endure the ages. He shouts instructions, ensuring that precision governs every movement. Do not lay it crooked. This is no palace, it is the light of the world. The foundation begins to rise. Sweat drips from brows, backs ache, but a strange energy fills the air. The people sense they are building not just for their pharaoh, but for all mankind. They whisper prayers as stones are lowered into place, believing the gods themselves will bless this tower. Nearby, sailors watch from the docks. To them, this construction is not abstract, it is salvation. Many recall nights lost at sea, when the stars hid behind clouds, when waves swallowed their brothers. For them, this lighthouse is a promise that one day no sailor will wander blind in the night. As dusk falls, the workers gather around the newly laid stones. Their bodies ache, but their spirits burn. Sostratus stands among them, his voice calm but fierce. These stones will outlast us all. Someday, when we are dust, travelers from distant lands will still look upon this tower and see our labor shining in its flame. The workers raise their rough, calloused hands toward the foundation. The stones are more than stone now, they are destiny, the first step toward immortality. The sound of the sea roars louder, as if acknowledging the birth of a monument. And so, on this night, Alexandria sleeps with a new heartbeat, the heartbeat of the lighthouse that will one day pierce the darkness of eternity. Morning light spills across the Mediterranean, painting Alexandria's harbor in shades of gold and sapphire. The once chaotic port, where ships crashed blindly against hidden reefs, now stirs with a new spirit. Something monumental rises at its edge, a foundation that promises safety, power, and eternal light. The harbor is alive like never before. Ships glide into port, their sails snapping in the wind, their decks heavy with goods from distant lands. Phoenician traders unload amphorae of wine, Greek sailors carry olive oil, and Egyptian barges bring papyrus and grain. The air buzzes with languages from every corner of the known world. Alexandria has become a crossroads of civilization, and the construction of the lighthouse adds a sense of destiny to the city's pulse. At the center of this living mosaic stands Sostratus of Cnidus. From dawn until dusk, he oversees every detail of the rising tower. His hands are stained with chalk and earth, his voice hoarse from shouting commands, but his spirit blazes with fire. He does not merely see workers moving stone, he sees the birth of something greater than himself, a wonder that will outlast generations. The harbor folk whisper about him. He builds not for Pharaoh, but for the gods, says one sailor. Another adds, no, he builds for us, the lost men who need light to guide them home. The city feels the change. Merchants boast that Alexandria will soon be the safest port in the world. Priests murmur blessings, weaving divine prophecy into the stones. Children play along the docks, pointing toward the structure rising higher each day, their laughter mingling with the creak of ropes and crash of waves. One evening, as twilight settles, the harbor grows quiet. Sailors and citizens gather along the shore, their eyes fix on the tower's foundation, silhouetted against the dying light. The sea glitters as though bowing to the rising structure. Sostratus steps forward, raising his voice so all may hear. This harbor has seen sorrow, it has swallowed lives, but soon it shall shine, as no harbor has shone before. This lighthouse will not be a wall of stone, it will be the soul of Alexandria. Its flame will guide strangers as brothers, merchants as kin, sailors as sons of one sea. The crowd erupts in cheers. Torches blaze along the shore, reflecting like 100 stars across the water. For the first time, Alexandria feels the power of a future glowing on the horizon. The harbor has awakened, and with it, so too has the destiny of a wonder the world will never forget. The tower rises slowly, stone by stone, each block pulled into place with sweat, ropes, and iron will. But what is a lighthouse without its flame? The harbor may boast of walls and piers, yet the sea's darkness still swallows men whole. A question burns in every heart. How will the light itself be born? In the palace, Pharaoh Ptolemy II summons Sostratus of Cnidus once again. The pharaoh's gaze is sharp, yet beneath it lies urgency. You have raised the bones of the tower, he says, his voice echoing in the hall. But stone alone does not guide men. What flame shall stand against the wrath of night and storm? Sostratus bows, holding a scroll etched with designs. A watchfire, Majesty. Not the small fires of fishermen, but a blaze so fierce it will be seen for miles. Mirrors of polished bronze will catch its glow and throw it across the waters like a second sun. Where the stars fail, our flame shall endure. The pharaoh nods, his lips curling into a rare smile. Then let this fire be our crown. Back at the construction site, the idea spreads like wildfire itself. Workers and sailors whisper of a flame that will rival the gods. Blacksmiths labor to craft great mirrors, their hammers ringing like bells of destiny. Priests prepare sacred oils, convinced the fire must be blessed so that it may never betray its keepers. At last, a test is made. As the sun sets, a great pyre of wood and oil is built upon the rising platform of the tower. The crowd gathers, holding their breath. The harbor falls into silence as Sostratus himself strikes the spark. Flames roar to life, leaping upward, licking the night. The mirrors catch the blaze, bending its glow outward to sea. A cheer erupts from the people as golden light dances upon the waves. Ships at the edge of the horizon flash their signal fires in reply. The beacon has reached them. For the first time, the sea itself seems conquered. Sostratus watches, awe in his eyes. His voice, barely above a whisper, trembles with pride. The light lives. The pharaoh, standing on the balcony of his palace, sees the blaze piercing the night sky. In his heart, he knows, this is not just a monument of his reign. This is a flame that will burn through centuries. That night, Alexandria sleeps under the guardianship of its newborn watchfire. And though the tower is far from complete, its soul has already been ignited. The sea is not kind. Beneath the calm glitter of daylight lies a restless beast, waves that can crush wood, storms that devour men and nights so dark that even the bravest sailors tremble. For centuries, sailors have trusted the stars, but the stars often hide. In those black hours, countless ships have been claimed by the Mediterranean's fury, but tonight is different. Tonight, the sea will meet its rival. A storm gathers on the horizon, thunder splits the sky, waves crash like walls, and a ship, laden with goods and men, fights desperately against the wrath of the waters. The crew is lost, blinded by darkness, their prayers swallowed by the storm's roar. They believe death is near, and then it appears. Through the sheets of rain and lightning, a glow pierces the void. High above the raging sea, the newborn flame of the watchtower blazes. Its light, caught by mirrors, stretches across the water like a golden path. To the sailors it is no mere flame, it is salvation. By the gods, a star on earth, cries the captain, tears mixing with rain. He turns the helm, following the light. The crew shouts with renewed strength, rowing and steering toward the beacon. Every man clings to that flame, as though it were life itself. On the shore, citizens of Alexandria gather despite the storm, watching in awe. They see the ship emerge from the darkness, guided home by the flame's embrace. When the battered vessel finally reaches the safety of the harbor, the crowd erupts in cheers. Men fall to their knees, thanking the gods and the pharaoh, but most of all, the light among them. Sostratus stands silently, rain soaking his robes, eyes fixed on the tower. He does not cheer, he simply watches, humbled. For in this moment, his dream is no longer stone and fire, it is flesh and blood. It has saved lives. He whispers softly, almost to himself, the lost have found their way. News spreads quickly across Alexandria and beyond. Sailors from distant lands speak of the miracle flame, a star on earth that protects all who wander the seas. Merchants praise the pharaoh for his wisdom, priests proclaim it divine, and sailors whisper that the lighthouse is alive, a guardian spirit watching over them. That night, the storm dies, but the flame does not. It burns above the city, a silent promise that no man need be lost again to the sea's darkness. For the first time in history, the sea bows to the light of humankind. The lighthouse of Alexandria has begun its eternal duty, guiding lost souls home. The sun rises over the Mediterranean, casting its light on Alexandria, the city of wonders, the bride of the Nile. From afar, ships approaching the coast no longer fear the hidden reefs or the treacherous dark. Instead, they see the flame of the lighthouse, blazing like a celestial guardian. And so they come, more ships than ever before. The harbor swells with activity. Phoenician merchants unload purple dye, Greeks bring olive oil, Nubians trade ivory, and Egyptians stack papyrus in towering bundles. From India arrives cinnamon and pepper. From Arabia comes frankincense, from distant lands, silks and gold. Alexandria becomes the beating heart of global trade, a city where the world itself seems to gather. But the lighthouse is more than stone and fire, it is reputation. Sailors sing of it in distant taverns, merchants spread word of its guiding flame across kingdoms. To many, Alexandria becomes not just a port, but a promise, safety, knowledge, and prosperity. At the Library of Alexandria, scholars debate under shaded colonnades. They whisper that the lighthouse is not merely a beacon for ships, but a symbol of illumination itself. As it lights the sea, one philosopher declares, so too does knowledge light the mind. The city begins to see itself not just as a harbor, but as the center of the world's wisdom. Pharaoh Ptolemy II, standing upon the palace balcony, watches as the harbor thrives. He sees ships stretching beyond the horizon, sails swelling in the wind, and caravans arriving from inland deserts. His command to build the lighthouse was not just a ruler's whim, it has become the jewel of his reign. His pride is quiet, but his eyes shine. Alexandria shall never be forgotten, he whispers. Meanwhile, Sostratus of Cnidus walks among the workers and sailors. Unlike the pharaoh, his pride is tempered with humility. To him, the lighthouse is not his monument, but theirs, the laborers who bled, the sailors who prayed, the city that believed. Watching the glow of the flame, He smiles faintly. He knows the tower is no longer just a structure. It has become Alexandria's soul. At night, the city sparkles with torchlight and laughter. Musicians play in the streets, merchants feast with sailors, and stories of the lighthouse are told like legend. It is said that the fire never sleeps, and that as long as it burns, Alexandria will stand as the crown of the Nile. The lighthouse is not yet complete, but already it has transformed Alexandria. Once a city, now a jewel. Once a harbor, now a beacon to the world. The harbor of Alexandria never sleeps. By dawn, its waters glitter with sails of every color, and by night, its air hums with the voices of men from across the known world. Here, beneath the glow of the lighthouse flame, merchants and mariners weave the fabric of Alexandria's destiny. Phoenician traders stride across the docks, their hands stained purple from their famous dye. They haggle fiercely over amphorae of wine and bolts of fine linen. Greek sailors, loud with laughter, unload jars of olive oil, exchanging them for Egyptian papyrus bound in neat bundles. From Nubia come traders with ivory tusks carried by sweating porters, while Arabs bring baskets of frankincense, their fragrance mingling with the salt air. But the harbor is more than trade. It is survival. Mariners gather at taverns, their faces weathered by storms, their voices heavy with tales of the sea. Some boast of journeys to distant lands, others whisper of nights nearly claimed by darkness, when only the lighthouse flame stood between them and death. For them the tower is not a wonder, it is a savior. In one tavern, lit by flickering oil lamps, a circle of sailors leans close. A Greek captain raises his cup, voice hoarse but proud. Without that flame, we would be bones on the sea floor. I saw it pierce the storm, when all stars were gone. That tower is no work of men, it is the eye of the gods. The men nod, some pounding their cups on the table in agreement. Stories spread like fire, making the lighthouse of Alexandria not only a beacon, but a legend whispered in faraway ports. Meanwhile, the merchants see something else: profit and power. A Babylonian trader, wrapped in fine robes, gestures at the bustling docks. Here lies the heart of the world, he declares. The lighthouse draws us, for who would not trust a port guarded by fire? Alexandria has become the crossroads of empires. At the edge of the harbor, Sostratus of Cnidus watches quietly. He listens to the laughter, the bargaining, the songs of mariners, the clash of languages. This is what he dreamed of. Not glory carved on stone, but a city alive, thriving under the light he helped bring forth. As the sun sets, the harbor does not rest. Torches flare, lanterns glow, and ships continue to dock, guided by the eternal flame. Merchants strike deals by firelight. Sailors toast to survival and fortune. Alexandria beats like the heart of the world, and the lighthouse is its pulse. It is here, among merchants and mariners, that the true legacy of the lighthouse begins, not in palaces, not in scrolls, but in the lives of ordinary men who trust its glow to bring them home. The Lighthouse of Alexandria is no longer just a structure of stone and fire. It has become an idea. To sailors it is safety, to merchants it is prosperity, but to scholars, philosophers, and dreamers, it is something far greater, a symbol of knowledge itself. Within the grand library of Alexandria, scrolls from every corner of the known world line the shelves. Greek mathematics, Egyptian medicine, Babylonian astronomy, Indian philosophy, all gathered beneath one roof. Here, scholars debate under marble colonnades, their words echoing through the halls, and always, when they pause, their eyes drift toward the harbor, where the lighthouse flame burns eternally. One philosopher, his robes trailing the floor, declares, "Do you not see? That fire guides sailors across the waters as knowledge guides men through ignorance. The lighthouse is not just for ships, it is for the human spirit." Another adds, "As long as its flame burns, so too does the flame of thought." Alexandria is the beacon not only of trade, but of wisdom. Beyond the library, the idea spreads. Priests link the flame to divine enlightenment. Teachers point to the tower when speaking of truth. Even ordinary citizens whisper of it, saying, "The lighthouse does not only guard our harbor, it guards our minds." At the construction site, Sostratus of Kinus listens to such words with quiet awe. He never dreamed his work would inspire more than sailors. Now he hears scholars comparing his tower to the stars themselves. He gazes up at the unfinished height, and for the first time, he feels that he has built not just for Pharaoh or for Alexandria, but for humanity itself. One night, as the flame blazes, scholars gather on the shoreline. They bring with them astrolabes, scrolls, and measuring tools. Under the lighthouse's glow, they chart the stars, using its flame as a fixed point to map the heavens. A young astronomer exclaims, "The sea has its guide, and now the sky has its measure." The crowd cheers, their instruments glinting in the firelight. Thus, the lighthouse becomes more than a monument of stone. It is a university under the open sky, a living library above the waves, a flame of knowledge as enduring as the flame of fire. From the harbor to the halls of wisdom, the tower's meaning grows. The sailors may call it salvation, the merchants call it prosperity, but the scholars call it enlightenment. And so Alexandria, the jewel of the Nile, becomes not only the heart of trade, but the mind of the ancient world. The lighthouse of Alexandria has risen beyond purpose. It has become symbol. Night falls over Alexandria. The harbor rests in silence, yet the lighthouse does not sleep. Its fire blazes against the darkness, mirrored across the sea, its glow reaching farther than mortal eyes can see. On the shore, a small group gathers, not merchants, not sailors, but philosophers and seekers of truth. The waves crash softly at their feet as they speak. Their robes sway in the night wind, scrolls tucked beneath their arms. The fire above illuminates their faces, giving them the appearance of men carved from flame itself. One elder philosopher, white-bearded and stooped, raises a hand toward the tower. "Behold," he says, his voice steady, "that flame is not only a guide for ships, it is a guide for thought. Just as a sailor is lost without light, so too is man lost without wisdom." A younger thinker leans forward, eyes bright with passion. "And yet, is it not mortal hands that built this wonder? What gods claim its glory, when it was men who raised stone and fire against the night? Perhaps the flame proves not divine power, but human triumph." The group stirs at his words. Some nod, some protest. A priestly philosopher responds, "Even if men built it, was it not divine inspiration that led their hands? Surely no man alone could imagine such a beacon." Their voices rise, clashing like waves against rock. The debate grows heated, but beneath it flows a river of awe, for none deny the majesty before them. A silence falls when Sostratus of Cnidus approaches, unnoticed until now. He listens as the thinkers argue, his face shadowed by firelight. At last he speaks softly. "The tower is built by men, yes, but it stands for all. Whether by gods or by human will, its flame is not mine nor the Pharaoh's. It belongs to every soul who sees it." The philosophers bow their heads, humbled. His words end the quarrel, replacing argument with reflection. They sit together, watching the fire dance in the sky. For a moment, there are no divisions of belief, only wonder. Later, one young philosopher writes in his scroll by torchlight, "The lighthouse is not only the guardian of the harbor, it is the teacher of men that in darkness there is always a light to seek." The night deepens, and the voices fade, but the flame above continues its silent sermon. The lighthouse of Alexandria becomes more than stone, more than fire, more than symbol. It becomes a philosophy in itself, that knowledge, like light, must always reach beyond the shore. The sea, though tamed by flame, is never conquered. It waits, watching, patient as the tide, and when it rises with fury. One autumn night, dark clouds roll across the horizon. The people of Alexandria sense it before the first thunder cracks. Merchants shutter their stalls, sailors secure their ships, and priests lift their hands in prayer. But nothing can stop the storm that approaches. The winds scream like 1,000 beasts. Waves hurl themselves at the harbor walls, shattering boats into splinters. Lightning splits the sky, revealing the towering figure of the lighthouse. Against the storm's black curtain, its fire burns stubbornly, a golden heart defying the heavens. Inside, keepers of the flame rush to protect the beacon. Oil is poured, fires stoked, mirrors polished even as the tower trembles beneath the wind. Every strike of thunder rattles its stones. Workers cling to ropes, shouting over the roar of nature. From the shore, Sostratus of Cnidus watches with dread. The tower he built was meant to endure, yet now it shakes as though the gods themselves test its strength. Rain lashes his face as he cries to the storm, "Hold my tower, hold." The sea answers with fury. A colossal wave surges, striking the base with the power of an army. Stones groan, timbers splinter, but the foundation holds. Another wave crashes, higher still, but again the tower resists. With every strike, it becomes not weaker, but prouder. Then a miracle. Through the storm's chaos, ships appear on the horizon, their sails torn, their masts bent. They struggle against the waves, yet their eyes are not on the storm, they are on the flame. Through wind and water, the lighthouse's fire still shines. The sailors, seeing the glow, steer desperately toward it. Guided by the golden path, they reach the harbor, battered but alive. The citizens, soaked and trembling, erupt in cries of joy. They bow toward the flame, whispering prayers of gratitude. When dawn finally breaks, the storm recedes, leaving wreckage across the harbor. Many ships are lost, many goods destroyed, but one thing stands unbroken: the lighthouse. Its stones are scarred, its timbers soaked, yet its fire still burns. The people gather at the shore, their eyes wide with reverence. They no longer see a tower of stone, nor a flame of oil. They see a guardian, unyielding, eternal. The storm has proven what no words could. The lighthouse of Alexandria is not only a wonder of man, but a defiance of nature itself. And so the people name it anew, the immortal flame. High above the sea, where the wind howls and gulls circle endlessly, the fire of the lighthouse of Alexandria burns. But it does not burn alone. Behind every flicker, every glowing reflection across the waters, there are men, silent, unseen, guardians of the eternal flame. They are the keepers of the flame. Day and night, they climb the spiraling staircases, carrying oil jars heavy as their own bodies. Sweat drips down their brows as they pour the sacred fuel into great bronze bowls. The fire must never die, for even a moment of darkness could spell disaster for a ship at sea. One keeper, Nicanor, rises before the sun each day. His life is a rhythm: climb, pour, polish, pray. His hands are blistered, his back bent from the labor, yet he never complains. Standing beside the fire, he looks out across the sea and whispers, "Let no man be lost tonight." Another, Philon, tends to the mirrors, great curved sheets of polished bronze that capture the flame and cast it far beyond the horizon. He wipes them clean of soot, polishes them until they gleam like liquid sunlight. He calls them the eyes of the tower, and when he works, he murmurs, "See for them, guide them home." At night, when the city sleeps, the keepers keep vigil. The tower creaks in the wind, the fire roars above, and their shadows dance along the stone walls. They speak little, for the silence is part of their duty. Yet in their hearts burns a quiet pride. Though nameless to history, they hold the light that guards nations. One stormy evening, a young apprentice falters. The climb is long, the oil heavy, and his legs give way. He collapses upon the stairs, gasping. Nicanor kneels beside him, his voice steady. "The fire is greater than us, boy. Stand. Every step you take, a sailor takes with you. Every jar you lift a life from the sea." The boy rises, trembling but resolute, and together they ascend. From the harbor below, sailors lift their eyes toward the tower, never knowing the faces of the men within. To them the flame is eternal. They do not see the sweat, the labor, the sacrifice. It is invisible, as all true devotion is. And yet, within the tower, the keepers know the truth. They are not kings, not scholars, not architects, but without them the flame would die, and with it, the very soul of Alexandria. So the fire blazes on, and the men who feed it remain in the shadows, silent heroes, unseen by history, but forever a part of its light. The lighthouse of Alexandria blazes proudly above the Mediterranean, its fire visible for miles. To sailors, it is salvation. To merchants, it is prosperity. To philosophers, it is enlightenment. But to rival kingdoms across the sea, it is something else entirely, a threat. For the lighthouse is not just a flame, it is power. Every ship guided safely to Alexandria strengthens its trade. Every merchant who docks in its harbor adds to its wealth. Every scholar who arrives in its library adds to its wisdom. The tower, standing unbroken against storms, becomes the crown of Alexandria, and crowns invite envy. In Rome, senators murmur of Alexandria's growing influence. The Nile feeds half the world, one says, and now their lighthouse feeds their glory. If ships flock there, who will come to us? Another replies darkly, a city with a flame that never dies will one day rival even Rome itself. Farther east, rulers of rival ports grit their teeth. They see merchants abandoning their harbors to sail toward Alexandria's beacon. Kings who once boasted of their power now hear whispers, why trade here, when Alexandria is safer? The flame does not only guide ships, it steals them. In the shadows of taverns and marketplaces, spies carry rumors. Some claim the lighthouse is invincible, built with magic stones. Others whisper it is fragile, one great wave from ruin. Rivals begin to imagine not admiration, but sabotage. Back in Alexandria, Pharaoh Ptolemy II knows this truth well. Standing in his palace, he tells his advisors, the flame that guides the world also blinds our enemies. They see our light as arrogance. They see our harbor as theft. We must guard not only our shores but our tower itself. Sostratus, summoned once again, speaks with quiet concern. Majesty, the lighthouse was built for life, not war. But you are right, it now casts a shadow beyond our walls. And so, soldiers begin to patrol the harbor. Watchmen guard the base of the tower. Priests weave blessings against treachery. For the Pharaoh knows the truth. What is admired is often envied, and what is envied is often threatened. Yet among the citizens, such worries fade beneath pride. They boast of their flame to every traveler, their voices swelling with glory. To them the lighthouse is untouchable, but in the quiet corners of the world, envy stirs, growing darker with each passing night. For the lighthouse of Alexandria is more than a wonder, it is a prize. And prizes, no matter how bright, always cast shadows. Far across the sea, in the heart of Rome, the Senate gathers in its grand hall. The air is heavy with debate, the marble walls echoing with the voices of men who rule an empire. But on this day, their talk is not of their armies, nor their laws, but of a city across the waters, Alexandria. Reports have arrived from sailors and merchants. A tower unlike any other now lights the Egyptian coast. The lighthouse of Alexandria, they call it, a flame that never dies, a beacon seen for miles, a wonder that draws all trade into its harbor. A senator, old and proud, slams his fist on the table. This lighthouse is no beacon, it is a crown, and every ship that sails to it steals wealth from Rome. Do you not see? Egypt grows stronger while we sit blind. Another, younger and more ambitious, leans forward. We should not admire it, we should study it. If such a tower can be built there, why not here? Rome should not bow to Egypt's light, we should surpass it. But a third, more cautious, whispers, or perhaps it should fall. Wonders that grow too bright invite ruin. Thus begins the watch of Rome. Spies are dispatched, disguised as merchants, to walk Alexandria's streets, to stand at its harbor, to gaze upon the tower, and bring back every detail. They measure its height, its base, its flame. They sketch its mirrors, its stairways, its stones. The Senate wants not only to know of it, they want to own its secret. Back in Alexandria, whispers reach Pharaoh Ptolemy II. Rome's eyes are upon us, his advisors warn. The pharaoh frowns, gazing at the lighthouse from his balcony. Let them watch, he says. The flame of Alexandria is not theirs to claim. Sostratus of Cnidus, hearing of Rome's interest, feels unease. He knows the tower was built for sailors, for life and light, not as a weapon of rivalry. Yet now, his creation has become a piece on the great chessboard of empires. At the harbor, citizens boast proudly to visiting Romans, unaware of the danger their pride stirs. Children point to the flame and shout, "No ship is lost in our city." The Romans smile politely, but in their eyes burns calculation. That night, as the fire blazes, a Roman spy scribbles in his scroll. It shines brighter than the stars. If Rome does not match it, we shall one day bow to it. Thus the lighthouse becomes more than a wonder. To Rome it is a warning, to Egypt it is a challenge. And in the quiet shadows of politics, the flame that saves lives now sparks the embers of rivalry between empires. The flame of the lighthouse blazes every night, golden and defiant against the darkness. To the sailors of Alexandria, it is salvation. To merchants, it is prosperity. But across the Mediterranean, to rivals and enemies, it has become a provocation. Rumors drift on the waves, carried from port to port, in taverns of Rhodes, in the markets of Carthage, in the marble halls of Rome. Men whisper of Alexandria's flame. They say the city grows fat from trade, her harbor swollen with riches, her scholars drunk on knowledge. They say her lighthouse is not a gift to the world, but a weapon of pride, and where whispers spread, suspicion follows. In Rome, senators murmur of Egypt's growing arrogance. This flame blinds the world, to all but Alexandria. One growls, "If they command the sea's trust, what need has any man of Rome?" Another nods darkly, "Every beacon can be extinguished." In Carthage, traders curse the loss of their ships to Alexandria's harbor. "They sail past us now," one laments. "They choose her flame over ours. Are we to starve while Egypt thrives?" Even in distant Greece, kings hear of the lighthouse and grow uneasy. It is not only a wonder, one says, it is a message. Alexandria proclaims itself queen of the seas. Back in Alexandria, the tension is felt like a storm building beyond the horizon. Pharaoh Ptolemy II summons his advisors. The court echoes with worried voices. Some urge him to strengthen the city walls, to build more ships, to prepare for war. Others argue that Alexandria must project peace, that the lighthouse should remain a gift, not a banner of defiance. The pharaoh listens in silence, then turns to the architect, Sostratus of Cnidus. "You built me a light for sailors, not a torch for war," he says quietly, "yet now it shines on a battlefield. I did not choose." Sostratus bows his head, his heart heavy. He never imagined the Tower of Hope could ignite fear and jealousy. Standing at the harbor that night, he gazes at the flame. "Was it wrong to build it so high?" he whispers. "Did I give the world guidance, or envy?" Meanwhile, in the taverns of Alexandria, sailors trade uneasy stories. They say Rome will send spies, one mutters. They say Carthage plots in secret. The men drink deeply, glancing nervously toward the flame. For the first time, some wonder if the beacon that saves lives might one day draw enemies to their shores. The lighthouse burns on, oblivious to politics and whispers. Its fire knows no borders, no kings, no rivalries, but men are not like flames, and in their hearts, war already flickers. The Mediterranean, so often a mirror of blue tranquility, has another face, wild, merciless, unrelenting, and on this night, that face is revealed. It begins with a tremor in the waves. Sailors in the harbor glance nervously at the horizon, their instincts sharper than their eyes. The air grows heavy, the gulls vanish, and a strange silence falls over Alexandria. Then, without warning, the sea roars. A storm unlike any before lashes the coast. The wind shrieks like 1,000 horns, tearing sails and ripping roofs from houses. Waves rise higher than the city walls, smashing against the piers, swallowing boats whole. The harbor is chaos, but above it all, the lighthouse still stands, its fire burning defiantly. Inside the tower, the keepers of the flame fight desperately. Oil jars shatter as the structure shudders beneath the storm's wrath. The spiral stairways rattle, mirrors quake on their frames, and every gust threatens to snuff the fire. Yet the keepers do not yield. "Feed it," shouts Nicanor, their leader. "The sea will not take our flame." They pour oil, polish mirrors with trembling hands, shielding the fire with their bodies when the wind bursts through cracks in the stone. On the shore, citizens of Alexandria huddle in fear. Families cling together, watching as the great tower sways against the waves. Mothers whisper prayers to Isis, sailors cry out to Poseidon, and priests lift their arms, begging the gods to spare the beacon. Then it comes, the greatest wave the harbor has ever seen. A mountain of water rises from the Black Sea, taller than ships, taller than houses, surging straight toward the base of the lighthouse. A cry erupts from the people. Some turn away, unable to watch. The wave crashes, stone groans, foundations tremble. For a moment, it seems the tower will fall, yet it holds. The wave breaks around it, foaming and raging, but the structure endures. Its flame, battered but alive, still pierces the night. As dawn breaks, the sea slowly recedes, leaving wreckage and ruin scattered across the shore. Boats lie splintered, homes shattered, and bodies carried by the tide. But amidst the devastation, the lighthouse still rises, scarred but unbroken, its fire glowing faintly against the pale sky. The people of Alexandria gather at the harbor, gazing in awe and disbelief. A woman cries out, "The gods themselves have struck the sea with fury, and still the flame survives." Priests declare it a miracle. Sailors kneel, swearing oaths to the tower as their eternal guardian. Sostratus, standing with the citizens, feels tears on his cheeks, not of fear, but of reverence. "The sea's wrath has tested it," he whispers, "and it has endured." From that day forward, the lighthouse is no longer just a wonder of man. It is the conqueror of storms, the defiance of the sea itself. The sea has tested the tower, but the earth itself is yet another master. One quiet morning, Alexandria stirs as usual. The markets fill with merchants, children chase each other along the docks, and ships prepare to set sail beneath the lighthouse's watchful glow. Then silence. Birds erupt from rooftops. Dogs howl. A deep rumble rolls beneath the city, so low and powerful it shakes the very marrow of men's bones. The earth groans, splitting stones, rattling pillars, shattering amphorae in the markets. Panic surges through the streets as walls collapse. People cry out, and the harbor churns with sudden unrest. At the edge of the city, the lighthouse trembles. Its massive base grinds against the shifting earth, dust falling from its seams. Inside, the flame keepers cling to the stairways as they shake beneath their feet. The flame sways dangerously, oil sloshing in its great bowl. One keeper shouts, "Hold it steady." Another cries, "The gods are testing us again." Outside, citizens watch in horror as cracks crawl up the lower stones of the tower. Mothers scream, sailors fall to their knees, priests cry prayers into the trembling sky. The earthquake rages, and for the first time, the lighthouse seems not eternal, but fragile. High above, the fire wavers, nearly extinguished by the shaking, but the keepers guard it, holding fast to ropes, shielding it with their bodies, refusing to let the flame die. Dust clouds choke them, stones crack around them, but they endure. Then, as suddenly as it began, the earth grows quiet, the rumble fades. The city lies in ruins, houses toppled, markets broken, citizens weeping among rubble. But when they raise their eyes, they see the impossible. The lighthouse still stands, cracked, scarred, but upright, and its fire still glowing. Silence falls once more, this time not of terror, but of awe. Priests proclaim the tower holy. Citizens bow before it, calling it the unshaken flame. Sailors whisper that no force on land or sea can now destroy it. But Sostratus, standing at the cracked base, feels both pride and dread. He runs his hand along the fissures in the stone. It has survived, he murmurs. But what price will time demand for these wounds? The earthquake has passed, but its silence leaves a question that lingers. How long can even a wonder endure? The earthquake has passed, but its scars remain etched in the stones of the lighthouse. At dawn, the people gather at the harbor, gazing at their guardian. Where once the tower stood pristine, now deep fissures mark its base. Chunks of stone have fallen, littering the shore. The flame still burns above, but the wonder is no longer unbroken. Pharaoh Ptolemy II arrives with his entourage, his face set in grim determination. He circles the fractured tower, listening as advisors debate. Some urge immediate repairs, others fear that rebuilding could collapse the whole structure. It stands, one advisor argues. Let it stand as it is. To touch it now may be to doom it. Another counters. If we leave it, the next storm or quake will destroy it completely. The pharaoh turns to Sostratus, his architect, seeking an answer. Sostratus kneels, placing his palm against the cracks. It has survived the wrath of earth itself, he says. But stone remembers. If we do not heal its wounds, the sea or sky will finish what the earth began. So the work begins. Masons climb scaffolds, pounding stone into place, filling cracks with mortar, binding the wounds of the tower. But the repairs cannot erase the scars. Dark lines still run through its surface like veins of memory. At night, citizens whisper in the taverns. Some say the scars make the lighthouse stronger, proof of its endurance. Others mutter that it has been broken, that its soul is no longer whole. Sailors, however, care for none of this. They point to the flame and say, as long as it burns, we are safe. But within the tower, the flame keepers feel the strain. The stairs creak more loudly, stones shift beneath their feet, dust falls in their eyes. They know they walk inside a wounded giant. The repairs drag on for months, and the tower endures, though not as flawless as before. The fractures remain visible, reminders that even wonders can be wounded. One evening, Sostratus stands by the sea, watching the flame dance above the cracked stone. He speaks softly to himself. It is no longer perfect, but perhaps perfection was never its purpose. Its scars are its truth. It endures because it suffers, and still it stands. The people of Alexandria learn to live with the fractured tower. To them, its scars become part of its legend. The lighthouse is no longer only a marvel. It is a survivor, scarred but steadfast, just like the city it guards. Years pass, and though the lighthouse of Alexandria still stands, its scars remain. The cracks from earthquake and storm never fade, etched into its body like lines upon an elder's face. To the citizens of Alexandria, those scars become more than stone. They become memory. Fathers tell their children how the tower withstood the wrath of sea and earth. Merchants remind sailors of the quake that shook the city, but left the flame unbroken. Priests call the scars proof of divine blessing, declaring, even the gods tested it, and it endured. Yet not all memories are reverent. In the taverns, old sailors whisper of nights when the tower groaned like a wounded beast, when dust fell from its stones, and when they feared it might crumble into the sea. We live beneath a giant, one mutters, and giants do not live forever. Sostratus, now older, walks often to the base of the tower. He runs his fingers over the fractured stone, remembering the day it first rose, the first flame that lit the sea, the cheers of the people. The cracks remind him that no creation, however mighty, escapes time. He murmurs, even wonders can wither. The citizens live between awe and unease. They celebrate the flame, but their eyes drift to the fractures, wondering how many storms remain before the tower falls. Children play by its shadow, but their parents tell them, respect it. This giant has endured more than you can imagine. At night, the flame still burns, seen for miles across the water. But the cracks, visible in daylight, become symbols in themselves. Some call them holy, others call them omens. All agree, they are memories carved into stone. The lighthouse is no longer only a triumph. It is a relic of survival, carrying with it the story of every battle it has faced. And though it still rises proudly above the sea, a question hangs heavy in the hearts of the people. How many more memories can its stones bear before memory becomes ruin? The lighthouse has never failed. Storms, quakes, wars of men, all came and went, and still its fire blazed. But one fateful night, for the first time, the sea is dark. A fierce wind howls through Alexandria. Clouds choke the sky, and the harbor is swallowed in blackness. Sailors on distant waters look toward the horizon, expecting the golden flame, but no light greets them. Inside the tower, disaster has struck. A great iron chain has snapped. Mirrors have fallen from their frames, and the flame, starved of oil, sputters and dies. The keepers scramble desperately, but the fire is gone. For the first time since its birth, the lighthouse stands silent and dark. On the sea, panic spreads. A ship approaches the Egyptian coast, its captain shouting in fear. Where is the star? Where is the fire? Without the beacon, the sailors cannot find the harbor. Waves drag them dangerously close to hidden reefs. Some strike the rocks, splintering, their cries lost to the storm. Others drift blind, praying for dawn. In the city, citizens rush to the shore, pointing upward in horror. Mothers clutch their children, sailors weep, and priests kneel in the sand, begging the gods to relight the flame. Sostratus, roused from his sleep, hurries to the tower. He sees the darkness above, and feels a weight heavier than stone crush his chest. Running up the stairs, he finds the keepers frantic, oil jars broken, mirrors shattered, the fire bowl black with soot. "Reignite it," he cries, voice hoarse. The sea has no guide without it. The men work feverishly, dragging oil, rebuilding the pyre, striking sparks with trembling hands. At last, after agonizing hours, the flame catches. Slowly it rises, mirrors reassembled to cast it outward again. When the light blazes once more, a cheer erupts from the shore. But for many mariners that night, it is too late. Ships lie broken on reefs, bodies wash ashore. The sea has claimed its price for a single night of darkness. The citizens weep for the dead, but also for their lost certainty. For the first time, they know the truth. The flame is not immortal. The lighthouse is mighty, but it is not unbreakable. Still, when dawn comes, the fire burns again, and sailors return to their ships. But in their hearts, the memory of that night lingers. They call it the night without a star, a reminder that even the brightest flame can falter. The years pass, and with them generations of men who climbed the endless stairs of the lighthouse, who poured the oil, polished the mirrors, and kept the flame alive. But time, relentless as the sea, thins their numbers. In the twilight of the lighthouse's prime, one man remains, whose devotion surpasses all others. His name is Nicanor, the eldest of the flame keepers. His beard is silver, his back bent, but his spirit burns as fiercely as the fire he guards. By day he ascends the tower slowly, oil jars balanced across his shoulders, his breath heavy but steady. By night, he tends the great flame with patient hands. Younger men work beside him, but none match his endurance. "The fire has been my life," he says quietly, "and I will not see it fade in mine." Sailors know him by name. When ships dock safely, they nod toward the tower and murmur, "Nicanor kept us alive this night." To them he is more than a man. He is the guardian of their souls. But time is merciless. One winter evening, a storm rolls in, rattling the tower. The keepers rush to their duties, but Nicanor climbs slower than before. His legs tremble, his breath fails. Yet he does not stop. At the summit, he reaches the fire bowl, gazes at the flame, and whispers, "You will not die tonight." Through the night, he works tirelessly, feeding oil, shielding the blaze, guiding the mirrors, until dawn breaks. But as the first light of day touches the sea, Nicanor collapses beside the fire. His hands are still warm with oil, his face lit by the glow, the keepers find him lying peacefully, as though the flame itself claimed him. When word spreads through Alexandria, the people weep. Sailors lower their heads, priests declare him blessed, and mothers tell their children of the man who gave his life to the light. From that day, he is remembered not as a servant of the tower, but as its soul, the last flame keeper. The loss of Nicanor weighs heavily upon Alexandria, but even more so does the creeping realization that their great guardian is not eternal. The city that once celebrated the flame now carries sorrow in its heart. Whispers fill the taverns and marketplaces. If even the keeper can fall, some murmur, how long before the flame itself dies? Mothers hush their children as they point to the cracked tower, not with pride but with unease. Priests speak louder than ever, proclaiming that devotion is needed to keep the flame alive, but their words cannot silence fear. The harbor is quieter, sailors still come, but their voices are subdued. They no longer sing of the lighthouse as immortal, they speak of its fragility. Some carry charms carved in its likeness, fearing each voyage may be the last time they see it standing. In the palace, Pharos' successors debate heavily. Some argue for strengthening the tower, others for building new defenses. Yet none can erase the truth. Alexandria itself feels the weight of time. One evening, a storm batters the coast again. The lighthouse survives, but many ships are lost. The city mourns not only the sailors but its own helplessness. The flame still burns, but the people feel powerless against fate. Citizens gather at the harbor, weeping openly. Priests chant prayers, but the sobs of widows and orphans drown them out. One grieving mother cries toward the tower. What good is a flame if it cannot save them all? Sostratus, long gone by now, is remembered as the man who gave them their light. But even his name is spoken with sadness. His vision was grand, yet it cannot stop the march of time. That night, Alexandria weeps, not because the lighthouse has fallen, but because they now see it for what it is, not immortal, not divine, but fragile, like themselves. Yet in that grief lies a strange bond, for the people realize the tower's story mirrors their own, scarred, wounded, threatened by storms and war, yet still burning. Its cracks are their cracks, its struggles are their struggles, and as long as the flame still glows, even faintly, they too will endure. Alexandria was not only a city of trade and light, it was a city of knowledge. Within its great library, scrolls from across the world rested: Egyptian medicine, Greek philosophy, Indian astronomy, Babylonian mathematics. The lighthouse stood as its sibling, a symbol of wisdom reaching across the sea. But time is cruel to knowledge, as it is to stone. Rumors spread of fires, accidental, deliberate, perhaps both. Flames that licked at scrolls, turning centuries of wisdom to ash. Soldiers from foreign lands trample through marble halls. Dust gathers where scholars once debated. The library that mirrored the eternal flame begins to darken, and with it the soul of Alexandria weakens. The lighthouse still burns, but it no longer feels alone in glory. It feels surrounded by ruin. Sailors whisper, the flame endures, but the words are gone. Scholars grieve, wandering the docks with empty hands, as if clutching invisible scrolls. One philosopher, his voice breaking, cries to the harbor, "What is a flame without knowledge? A fire that guides bodies but not minds. We are blind, though the light still shines." Sailors, more practical, shake their heads. Knowledge will not save a man drowning in the sea, but that flame, that saves lives still. Yet the two truths cannot reconcile. Alexandria begins to fracture. Once the city was the jewel of the Nile, where commerce, wisdom, and hope all met. Now wisdom scatters like leaves in the wind. Some scholars flee to other lands, carrying what scrolls they can hide. Others stay, mourning the loss of what cannot be rebuilt. And so the lighthouse, though still burning, becomes a lonely sentinel. Its light shines upon waters that no longer bring caravans of ideas. Ships still come, but with fewer scrolls, fewer scholars. The great harmony of Alexandria, the flame and the word, has been broken. Sostratus, long gone, cannot see it. But those who remember him whisper, he built a light for the world. And now, the world has dimmed. The lighthouse continues to blaze, but it is no longer the beacon of wisdom. It has become the last reminder of what Alexandria once was, the city of light, now with knowledge scattered to the winds. As the centuries pass, the lighthouse of Alexandria begins to fade, not in fire, but in memory. Earthquakes strike again, shaking its foundations. Stones crumble, walls fracture, mirrors shatter. Each disaster takes a piece of the tower, and with it a piece of the city's soul. Citizens watch in grief as great chunks fall into the sea. Sailors whisper that the flame flickers weaker than before. The keepers grow fewer, their strength no match for time. And yet, stories grow. Where stone falters, myth endures. Some say the tower was built by gods, not men, that Poseidon himself set the flame to guide his children. Others whisper of secrets hidden in its walls, scrolls of forbidden knowledge, treasures of pharaohs, maps to lands beyond the horizon. The lighthouse, once real, begins to drift into legend, even while its stones still stand. Travelers from distant lands arrive, eager to see the wonder. Some find it cracked, crumbling, weary with age. But when they return home, their words are grand. It touches the sky. Its flame rivals the sun. They do not tell of broken stones, they tell of myth. In Alexandria, grief mixes with pride. The people know their wonder is fading, yet they cling to its story. Mothers tell their children not of its fractures, but of the day it saved sailors in the storm, the day it stood against the earthquake, the day its flame reached ships at the world's edge. At night, when the flame glows faint but steady, the city gathers on the shore. Old men point and say, "It was once taller, brighter, unbroken." Young boys and girls listen with wide eyes, imagining a tower that may have already passed into legend. One poet writes upon a scrap of papyrus, "Stone crumbles, but stories endure." The lighthouse is no longer stone, it is myth, and myths do not die. Thus, from ashes, myths rise, and though the tower's body weakens, its spirit grows stronger, carried not by stone, but by memory. The lighthouse of Alexandria becomes more than a wonder, it becomes a story, whispered across seas, retold in markets, sung in taverns, etched into history. A tower of stone may fall, but a tower of myth lives forever. The lighthouse of Alexandria, scarred and weary, still burns faintly against the horizon, but while its body falters, its story sails farther than any ship it has ever guided. Phoenician sailors carry tales to Tyre, describing a tower taller than mountains, a flame brighter than stars. Greek merchants bring stories back to Athens, boasting of a light that banishes all storms. Roman travelers, returning from Egypt, speak of it as a marvel no empire could match. Soon the tale belongs not to Alexandria alone, but to the world. In distant markets, storytellers embellish its grandeur. It touched the very sky. One cries in a crowded square, its flame could be seen across the earth. The crowd gasps, imagining a wonder greater than anything they know. None question the truth, for truth matters less than awe. Children in lands that never saw Alexandria grow up, hearing of a tower that shone eternal. Poets sing of it as a star gifted to men by the gods. Philosophers debate whether it was built by mortals or divine hands. Sailors wear charms of the lighthouse around their necks, believing it protects them even on seas far from Egypt. Meanwhile, in Alexandria, the people watch these legends spread with bittersweet pride. They know the cracks, the broken stones, the fading flame. Yet when travelers arrive, eager to see the wonder, they do not speak of its scars. They smile and say, "Yes, it is just as you heard." The lighthouse becomes two things, one real, scarred and mortal, one imagined, vast and immortal. The myth sails faster than any ship, and the myth cannot break. One aged sailor, watching ships depart, mutters softly, "The tower no longer belongs to us. It belongs to the seas themselves." And so the lighthouse of Alexandria, once the pride of a single city, becomes the legend of the world. Centuries pass. The lighthouse, once the defiance of sea and storm, stands weakened. Earthquakes strike again, shaking its body. Stone by stone, the mighty tower crumbles. Great blocks fall into the waves, waves that once bowed to its flame. In time, the flame goes out. The mirrors corrode, the bowl empties, the keepers are gone. What remains is a hollow shell, fractured and broken, a shadow of the wonder it once was. But silence has its own power. Travelers come still, not for the flame, but for the ruins. They stand at the harbor and gaze at the broken stones rising from the sea, whispering to one another. Here it stood, the greatest wonder of men, the flame that once lit the world. In Alexandria the people mourn, but quietly. The lighthouse had been their crown, their pride, their guardian. Now it is a grave. Yet even in ruin, it draws awe. Some kneel before its fragments, as if at a temple. Others chip pieces of fallen stone, carrying them as relics across deserts and seas. Poets change their songs. Once they praised the flame eternal, now they sing of loss. The sea devoured it, yet it endures in memory. The flame is gone, but its glow lingers in us. Children play among the fallen blocks, unaware of what was lost. To them, the ruins are only a place to climb and laugh. But to elders, the silence is heavy. They look to the horizon and remember nights when the fire pierced the storm, when ships cheered as they reached the harbor. When Alexandria was called the jewel of the Nile, the desert winds carry whispers of its story inland. In far-off oases, Bedouin tribes speak of the Tower of Light swallowed by the sea. In markets of Persia, traders tell of ruins half submerged, haunted by the voices of drowned sailors. The echoes spread endlessly, carried not by flame but by silence. And so, the lighthouse of Alexandria becomes more than stone, more than fire. It becomes absence, memory, echo. The sea may claim its stones, but the desert carries its voice. What was once a tower of light becomes a shadow of history, and yet even a shadow can shine in memory. The lighthouse of Alexandria is gone. Its flame no longer crowns the harbor. Its stones lie scattered in the sea. But absence does not end its story. It transforms it. Word spreads across kingdoms of the fallen wonder. In Athens, scholars whisper, "We must see what remains." In Persia, travelers boast, "I will touch the stones that once touched the sky." From Arabia, India, and even distant lands beyond Rome, pilgrims set out, not pilgrims of faith, but of knowledge. The ruins of the lighthouse become a shrine. Scholars kneel to trace their hands over the cracked marble, murmuring, "Here men built against the sea, and here the sea answered." They sketch the broken foundations, measure the fallen blocks, fill scrolls with descriptions. To them, the ruins are not only memory, they are lessons. One philosopher, standing at the harbor, writes, "The flame is gone, but its echo burns brighter than fire. What men build for hope becomes eternal in thought." His words spread, inspiring more seekers to journey to Alexandria. For the citizens, the presence of scholars softens their grief. They see strangers bow before the ruins, treat them as sacred, and realize their city's glory still shines, not through flame, but through memory. At night, these visitors gather in taverns. They trade stories, each one weaving the lighthouse larger, brighter, holier than before. "I heard its flame could be seen across the whole sea." One insists, another swears. Its stones were carved by gods. Alexandria listens, and for a moment feels proud again. Children play by the ruins, watching strangers sketch scrolls. They do not know the tower as it once stood, but they know it as legend. For them, the ruins themselves are enough, a place where the world gathers to remember. The lighthouse no longer saves sailors from reefs, but it saves something else. It preserves wonder, inspiring men to ask not only how it was built but why. Thus, the lighthouse of Alexandria becomes a pilgrimage, not of stone, but of spirit. Though the lighthouse lies in ruins, its spirit refuses to die. From its broken stones rise new dreams, not of memory alone, but of creation. In faraway cities, young architects hear of the wonder and feel fire ignite in their hearts. They ask themselves, if men once built such a tower, why not again? In Athens, A builder studies sketches made by pilgrims. They raised it with stone and courage, he muses. Then we too can raise wonders. In Rome, engineers debate how to surpass it. Our empire must shine brighter. One insists, a flame to outlast Alexandria's ghost. Even in distant China and India, tales of the lighthouse stir visions of towers that could pierce the heavens. The ruins of Alexandria become a classroom for ambition. Scholars measure its fallen stones, and architects translate those measurements into new designs. Towers for temples, towers for watch, towers to honor kings, all carry whispers of the lighthouse. Back in Alexandria, a young boy plays among the ruins, stacking small stones into his own miniature tower. His father watches with a smile. Perhaps one day, he says softly, he will build a flame of his own. But these dreams are not only for kings or empires, they belong to humanity. For the lighthouse showed what men could achieve when guided by vision, courage, and hope. Even broken, it continues to build, not of stone, but of spirit. One scholar writes in his scroll, though its flame is gone, it still lights the minds of men. Wonders fall, but hope rises eternal. Thus from the fractured body of a fallen wonder, 1,000 new dreams are born. Architects lift their eyes higher, engineers dig foundations deeper, dreamers sketch towers that no storm can erase. The lighthouse of Alexandria may be lost to the sea, but its glow has moved into human hearts, and there, it burns brighter than ever. The ruins of the lighthouse stand silent, but its flame has not died. It has simply moved from stone and oil into memory and imagination. The people of Alexandria, and the world beyond, now carry the flame within themselves. In villages far from the sea, men carve tiny charms of a tower, with a flame on top, wearing them for protection. Sailors across oceans whisper to their children, "There was once a light so bright it guided men through death itself." Scholars in their studies compare wisdom to the flame, teaching that knowledge, like fire, must be kept alive. No longer bound to its harbor, the lighthouse is reborn in every heart that seeks light against darkness. In Alexandria itself, citizens return to the ruins, not in sorrow, but in reverence. They leave offerings, shells, flowers, coins at the broken stones. Children play by the water and are told, "You are the new keepers of the flame. Carry it wherever you go." The myth becomes a living inheritance. Travelers still arrive, sketching what remains, writing of the tower not as ruins, but as symbol. One poet records, "It no longer shines in stone, but in us. For as long as men dream of light, the lighthouse burns again." The cracked foundation becomes a mirror for humanity itself, scarred, fragile, yet enduring. And from those scars rises resilience. The lighthouse of Alexandria no longer guides ships, but it guides something greater, the human soul. In every struggle against despair, in every hope that outlives failure, its flame is reborn. The wonder has left the earth, but it has entered eternity. Night falls upon Alexandria, the harbor quiet, the ruins silent. No fire burns atop the broken tower, and yet if one listens closely, the sea still whispers. It whispers of a light that once pierced its darkness, of a flame that guided lost souls home. The lighthouse is gone, but its glow is eternal. For wonders are not measured only in stone or years. They live in memory, in story, in the echoes they leave behind. And the lighthouse of Alexandria left an echo louder than storms, brighter than stars. Across the world, its legacy endures. Architects build towers in its likeness. Scholars call it the flame of wisdom. Sailors whisper its name in prayers before voyages. Children hear its story and dream of lights that can never die. It has become more than a monument. It is humanity's promise to itself, that even in darkness we will build, we will endure, we will shine. As dawn rises, the sea glimmers where the lighthouse once stood. The waves kiss the ruins gently, as if remembering their old rival. And in the hearts of those who gaze upon the horizon, the flame lives on. The lighthouse of Alexandria is no longer one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It is one of the eternal wonders of the human spirit. for its light was never truly extinguished. It was passed from stone to soul, from flame to dream, and now it glows in us all. And so, we have walked together through the rise and fall of a wonder, through storms and silence, through fire and ruin. The Lighthouse of Alexandria no longer towers above the sea. Its stones are scattered, its flame extinguished, but its light was never truly lost. For the glow of the lighthouse was not bound to oil, nor mirrors, nor stone. It was born of something greater, the courage of sailors who braved the unknown, the devotion of keepers who gave their lives to guard a flame, the vision of dreamers who dared to build what the world thought impossible. That is why the lighthouse still shines, not in Alexandria's harbor, but in us. Every time a soul seeks hope in darkness, every time humanity chooses knowledge over ignorance, unity over despair, creation over destruction, the flame is reborn. The 7 wonders of the world may crumble, but the wonder of the human spirit endures. The Lighthouse of Alexandria is proof that though storms may break stone, they cannot break light. Carry it with you. Let it remind you that even in the darkest night, there is always a glow to guide us home, the eternal glow, forever.